just send it.
We're setting a timer for 7:30, and then.
Is it new?
I'll read the plan
Yes.
at 7:30. Speechless. Okay. Just let me know when everyone gets that.
No, I got it.
Got it. Okay.
Sorry, 1 second.
Go.
No? Oh, no.
Okay, I got it, but it's like virus scanning.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm at like 2% or something.
I think I'll be fine for when I see this. I'm good on
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually good.
Okay. Arthur, Eleanor. Okay. Ethan.
Yep.
All right.
Eventualist harmonization, the Supreme Court's ruling in the Fourth Estate broke a growing trend towards international copyright harmonization and collapsing the credibility of Berne Convention. David 20 to become a member of the U.S. submitting copyright laws to remove all formalities under the U.S. work. Must wait until the office has determined whether to work and send out a resolution to a senator untenable given the purpose of moving towards increasing harmonization lines of opposition of the American copyright and no force more footing other international legal system would be improved with similarization to the EU limitation requirement necessary to equalize amounts of copyright under resulted in line and U.S. aligned with it. I will the workers and as not only since something not copyright law that was tried to avoid over 5 decades. Berne is the linchpin of copyright harmonization and the basis for multilateral dialogue in Moscow 20. The Convention shows this as an idea in copyright establishing starting points where all international multilateral has ignored its benefit from but we can trust in the science and take over from the essential importance of ever going for ideas and some importance in upgrading copyright. Keep it in mind establish principles of Berne. Effective copyright harmonization is necessary to facilitate uniform technological standards and key to cultural stages globally. Stage 21. Go to one approaches to undergo harmonization. You can now copyright consistent tech harmonization better rounds vendors and providers worldwide result in balance of rational solution and never make greater second make up the borders where poor service providers where the liability poses hurdle treaty act and stakeholder harmonization to limit global rationality go to limit and direct stages of cultural harmonization facilitate commercial activity reducing disembark copyright centers disparities in copyright reduce in cultural exchanges. Cross-border cultural exchange acts as a unique determinative of inclusivity necessary to strengthen existing cultural divides. Getting 21. Significance of cultural exchange is ever more pronounced a bridge between society and creating a shared experience over human experience become trade in the diplomacy of providing back on nations shaping recession breaking down stereotypes of building connection digital platforms over the face of transformative power under shared global mindset and rebel sustainability instrumental in building bridges between nations shaping our harmonious and connected future of humanity. Cultural divergences escalate great power war mode. 17. We build on new I can do at time very boxes were various estimation take these confident to conclude a cultural distance significantly civilization increases in conflict then is causal consistent with this and culture redetermined of depth on substance conflict nato Russian competition was Islamic extremism which more or less for civilization rises of independence and EU movement distributed cultural clashes like good and militarized and this is crucially up the cultural similarity conflict is likely between the culturally distant countries. A robust statistical analysis confirms that overwhelms institutional resilience and civil wars, coups, and terrorism no one causes parson 24. In the paper utilizes vast statistical tests provides a robust challenging assertion of researchers who argue culture may be insignificant across multiple models of cultural attention or that significant determinative civil war could not have despite the strength of the institutional attention remained a catalyst and error limitation of government and fully stressing attention and fuel the larger scale conflicts of violence and terrorism ethnic or religious tensions as secondary have limited activity to be even moderate attention significantly increased conflict. Digital fragmentation causes extinction of health and 20. Renewal lines is fight with opportunity and climate and change. Non-kidding destiny without their adversaries are pursuing it. Their strategies are China, Russia, defenders, dictators exploit democracy. America is in no position democracy that fractured in this wilderness and able to coordinate authoritarian rules. And the government data the process is shifting Europe from U.S. Bureau raised at the bottom open information to existential. The app is the only way to clear up statutory ambiguities and signal durable commitments to multilateral agreements. Click 18. 411 is ambiguous as a matter of 411 and to be equipped by public funds to video others held in equipment by wait decision because that's the language is censored in 210-year-old can also never about the law limitations important ensure participation in international copyright. This includes if there were compliance with international obligations to ensure rulings ignoring international obligation messaging and perception to U.S. as a partner with and caution against court interference in Iowa without affirmative consent of Congress. Advanced shoes industry and for the state of court and withheld relief from copyright owners before the formal approval of the Copyright Office have rendered millions of copyrights de facto unenforceable years causing irreversible irreversible damage or win. 19. For the state on the right effect of copyright, the issue is for 11 raw processing. No registration and menstrual vast majority are granted withholding. No remedies are all because of the 3% even habit. Or the quantity of voters can thus also the register can become a party action with respect to registry. Ability of copyright claim, the injunctive relief is unavailable until registration process by the copyright office owners. Do everything that the act expects of left without remedies. Dissemination is under government registration notice life motivated disseminated works. Right as illusory Congress should section 411 read immediate possession to damage will compensate as under government effect of course. Grant injunctive relief as for process by the against the army irreparable monetary damage make copyright wholly exclusive of rights as media given registration of owners. And these rights of submitting works are right without a remedies absence list of the promise of copyright must be maybe one of the most illusory rights. Scenario 1 is sure was the registration requirement kill small journalists. 18 copyright creating senator authors of release of creative endeavors of creator face up with battle and make all which is a lifetime of works is never made without remedies alone set of pursue craft successful works are raw for the lifetime creative work as own and marketing price of the copyright correct is amount of heavily course under infringements that one of the history's greatest public policy even to rebalance the step away from authors and ebooks as better market creating counterfeits every day or journalists like business events ever important to put away by awards news easy and infringement within seconds digital revenues measured effect of an entire economy IPF also $100 billion per year that ways of interest for offers who have depend on that time saving everybody's polarization is systemically and robustly magnified by the quantum news that receive revival reverse cause of sales margin 19 newspaper and quantum given importance of all things this will worrisome evidence under one cause of polarization using the data as a conversation where station with others and we find newspaper competition associated with ideological diversity acquisition by the national conglomerate ideologically unified content for locally focused and ideologically diverse content have real consequences for organization and waste and consolidated with our producing content that favor these other owners. It destroys the epistemic concepts, Ritter's extinction, Nebula, Schmartenberger, 21 can even survive the digital psychological warfare. And every citizen is not target victories include the legitimate election of civic dissertation. No arms race and InfoWars that we did the same day in the state. As confessional war, assured the restructuring of the open society, we underrated democratic government impossible because people have no means for making the world sense of the world that can be hard. No chief shots in the government downward spiral of the shots is crazy. This is making a problem solving until the social system classes. So, study has been teetering on the edge of participation in the propaganda based upon the formation of a particular media source and population must be set up with the democratized zone. Scenario 2 is a digital economy specifically forced to save rights. Digital photography, energy, and social media comes out. 23 with registration of creators has for the cause. Over to register as of 95 million photos. Best today we answer that means every quarter of the world that we have access to 71% of U.S. businesses use Instagram tech opens up access to works with advertising admissions opportunities, especially improves business copyright. Reference uses that on another side copyright. Related negative taking photographs as art form their professional reputation assuring of a photographer and subjects that establish a business reputation precedent regarding registration process and great challenges for digital curators. Empirically, digital authentic digital photography see the consumer trust and attitudinal change rubbish. 21 official ads have positively affect consumer attitude. Using photos have a good visual attraction. Consumers understanding the message what it was saying the factors considered what it studies positive effects on your payment attitude as they found that significant relationship with specifically when as based on the photographic perception is significant shaping consumer attitude successful digital advertisers build the necessary consumer base for sharing economy women 20 sharing economy holds a miss digital marketing and virtual activities collectively innovative and sustainable change and profitable inclusive market theory encourage the desired behavior change and contribute to greater sustainability to leverage resources of other markets and marketplace and capital advantages lower cost of production and consumer income reduce lead to greater competition or investment themselves in sharing practices lead to greater access to digital customers and offer digital products as well as IP otherwise rapid extinction of 19 of the water air pollution resources we should go for sustainable system for survival. I say that you go for with the integrity of ecosystem as a solution need to be able to quickly see materials so keeping materials that have high suitability resource efficiency and the utilization needs involvement of business consumers market card consumers. Therefore the United States federal government should strengthen this protection of the copyright before approval of registration by the Copyright Office. Go back to consumers increase of consumers who understand certain major influence and power and go beyond this emphasize the responsibility of companies again but the input their irreparable damages and exceeds their capacity ecological collapse escalates in growth in the boxes already and 23 a strong correlation between societal stability and carbon operations and stabilizing leading to social and societal insecurity combined impact on ag energy labor health crime causes 2% GDP economic costing carbon disorder and nuclear became a flashpoint.
Okay,
Marked up ready, flashpoint.
I don't have a plan yet.
OJ.
It's
Okay, we'll take a
if
step
it
back.
does.
Okay, 9:56. Yeah, 9:56. I still don't have it. But
Yeah, okay. The change is not on here anymore.
I'll send it. it's in the body.
Okay. I think I want to wait for it. It's fine if you have it. Okay, we can start. The last card on the first advantage says Section 411A of the code is ambiguous of the U.S. code. Does the plan reinterpret the U.S. code?
It would basically replace the current copyright requirement right now that requires registration. So if that results in
hold on.
changing
I asked a slightly
official
different
law,
question.
yes.
It says the issue is because the meaning of Section 411A is ambiguous, and then it says that there's a circuit split over the interpretation of that section. Does the plan
Is this on
change the
advantage 1 or
interpretation?
advantage 2?
The last card on the first advantage.
Yeah, it would result in the change of the law that it concerns copyright registration and when it has to be approved before going to the Copyright Office.
Okay, before approval of registration. So does this mean that if I was to file a copyright, then I get protection before the Copyright Office even thinks about it?
But in the status quo, before you get to get claims for infringement or remedies, you have to register before you actually ask the Copyright Office. The app would make it so that you don't have to ask first. You just get those infringement and remedies because you already have protection under copyright.
So you just it just makes it automated, like you automatically get protection for
Like
copyrights?
your copyright was already protected because you already made it. The
So-
status quo, you only get protection if you apply to the Copyright Office first.
Right, but there are some things that are excluded from copyright protection now, right?
Sure, it has to be a
Does the app make
copyright,
all of those
obviously.
available?
No, it has to be copyright. It has to be copyrightable.
So you have to have a copyright. Well, like, if it has to be copyrightable, but without
the app doesn't
checking with the
expand-
Copyright Office
the app
first.
doesn't-
Like,
I was going
what
to
do you
explain, the app doesn't expand subject matter.
Okay, sure, fine. But say you have something that you're not sure whether it's copyrightable or not, but you just you get to have protections over that without checking with the Copyright Office about whether it's copyrightable.
Well, Copyright Office already has standards to determine whether something is a copyright,
So-
if it's copyrightable or not. It's
Okay.
the same standards. It's just that if it's a determined copyright, they get the infringement and penalties that they would get after
Fine, so-
registration before they actually have to register.
So how does the app, assume somebody has something that's not copyrightable? What agency determines whether that thing gets protection before it goes to the Copyright Office?
The Copyright Office. Like
What? So
the
the
Copyright
Copyright
Office
Office
already has a
just does
standard
the
for how
same
they
thing twice?
evaluate whether something is a copyright or not. Like if you draw a picture
I
that's
understand.
technically copyright, and
Yeah.
but if someone were to infringe on it, the only way I could get remedies is if I had already registered with the Copyright
But you
Office.
said that the app strengthens protection before approval of registration. So the Copyright Office first has to determine whether it's copyrightable and then registers it later.
It already it doesn't change. The app does not change how the Copyright Office determines whether something is copyrightable. It determines when they allow remedies for infringement.
So if I apply for a copyright, do I immediately get protection? Before the
No.
Copyright Office even thinks about it?
Before you apply, you'd still get protection if it is a copyright.
Before I apply, then the Copyright Office doesn't have to think about it.
No, because you still have to submit for infringement. You have to file a suit.
Okay. Yeah, you can upload mine. It is 6, and then case in the order is 1, 2.
You said 6, right?
Mm-hmm. Is everybody good?
I have not
No,
got
I
it.
don't know. Okay. I just have.
Scanning. Oh yeah, I have it.
Give me 1 second. I just done it.
Actually, let's take a second. 9:56. Sorry. Yeah.
9:51. You order 7 no new cards. Everybody good? MBA.
First off, the U.S. Code Content. The Office of the Speaker of the House should request the Office of the Law Revision Council revisit the codification of Title 17 of the United States Code. The Office should insert a no source provision in 17 U.S.C. Section 111 showing the United States federal government should strengthen the protection of copyright before approval of the registration by the Copyright Office of the strengthen the protection of copyright. The executive and judiciary should defer this interpretation competes and solves case HLR 17. The copyright is a fundamental federal statutory rights of listed in the 17 U.S.C., including the rights to reproduce and create derivative works. Issuing a revision or request for the ORC clarification U.S. Code is solved without changing positive law, voice politics, to meant to model the same polarization across 20. A codification always changes and sort of substantive provision that a lawyers may perceive indistinguishable and acted titles and enacted the laws Congress have no, but this has little interest in statute and codified the public appears different. The reason that include expertise and nobody kind of bureaucracy and amendments and non-partisan of the Congress and institution, the rationality of the institutions add the criticism stronger durable system as allegation of bureaucracy shift the blame prevents the power from being centralized in a single office that exercise removes the partisan policies or serves as a conflict resolution mechanism of the power to wait to hyper-partisan prevent optimism the Congress even during partisan preserves the process the correspondence agreement to the laws in the U.S. Code that ORC has broad engagement to rearrange the law that ORC mandates. I know such tradition does not exist in the next law that ORC creates a law. I don't answer new definitions difficult to find evidence. Many pay attention. Extinction. Berlin on 20. Societies are called to more flexible and collaborative. Atomic bombs that highlight the need for vigilance. Particularly leads to knowledge of devastating the Western war. And WMD COVID is with the interconnected person event in which world space systems are overwhelmed. Partisan politics and hyper effective response making harder for the world to tackle existential threat, particular climate change, and the excess of the OSG kind of the United States judiciary should issue a call for the views of Solicitor General regarding strength and protection and selection copyright before approval of the registration of the Copyright Office. Office Solicitor General should find in favor of granting the certiorari and appropriate legal change. Kind of solves the case by having the Supreme Court invite a CBSG report attendant. When the court invites you, a royal recommend the SE as an advisor responding to the invitation is supposed to be substantial and because acts as a partner known as a CBSG because of enormous trust in the court values opinion best judgment should attend judgment independence helps ensure that SG is autonomy of political space just believe the influence necessary for the flow decision before a CBSG just remind expertise structurally doctrinal development for a decision CBSG guide the course of operative decision U.S. and merits assembly to the agency to high correlation between SG recommendations the decision is testament turns out 100% calls for the CBSG are uniquely effective in complex statutory regimes but distinct and purely advisory which means because they occur in petitioning stage before the arguments of merits court rate 10. SG is the premier advocate certain influence of substantive decision. The decision answer discretion notice at the agenda in addition the court advises the SG provided these generally views a recommendation in most cases which of course takes its civil and both complex statutory regulatory schemes where the SG decides to pursue enjoy remarkable success. Broadening the OSG's advocacy within pre-established chain events stops erosion of the rule of law. Treatment 21 the SG sets a balance of competing interests to ensure the commitments of rule of law in nature and other the OSG is the long-term interest you raise the accountability depends on the perception of the law change. It's a big deal in the margin behind the decisive serves an instrument for the sustaining competence the SG has special obligation the rule of law understanding committee refers to individual reality. The SC serves as a Master by strongly hears argument and that employer the OSG telling the court is the right answer expanded the role of law that support a greater open and spending position OSG should not furnish revision position if the prior was wrong. Extinction best determined the U.S. embrace the government law to complete the character of the U.S. issue of the world. The Republicans deliver shows that history shows the horrific consequences of open breakdown from Nazi Germany, Rwanda to Nazi Turkey, Syria, and Rwanda, Syria. A rule of law requires independent judiciary lawyers that many problems that include warming, hunger, overfishing, linked to extinction of refugees, and international security may be renewable to combating corruption and disease. The necessary and inescapable term of judiciary through checks and balances. Next up is Buddhism K. IP's investment in personal property guarantees inevitable extinction. Bonag for Buddhist interdependence, cultivating shared ownership instead of competition. Whole room 15. Claims of IPR should not be confined to those who have capacity without effective beneficiary team. The world's legitimate are confident it's ready to depend on the massive everything IP for Buddhism. The idea of personal property that has to be accomplished in interdependence. Nothing stands alone. The world create a perfectly peaceful world through changing oneself one rather than one world. Property needs to be shared, equitable. Though world's concept needs to be reconsidered. Cyber team personal property and intellectual should be loosened. Property ultimately belongs to humanity. Change are the beliefs of less dominant self-purpose. The IP going to be copied. Above those are interests in the future. Scientists when with advanced life forms that will even scientists do that for purpose true of nuclear based on teaching the notion that IP recognizes of facilitator future against its enemy. Next up is New York's bad. Their debt fairness question, adequate testing, interpretation, disclose full text 30 minutes before the round. Next up is the OSGDA. The OSG is pursuing a smooth election. Climate news now. Success is key to rapid mitigation. Question 1113. Pressure to political process and climate activists turning groups into litigation with the election resource commitment come more pronounced. SE has your opportunities running case for this power beyond continue case still playing. SE invite the files and briefs is still waiting. SG briefs issue included energy policy sensitive decisions about geopolitical issues like climate change. Any petitions given to the court a chance to go. The gap in 2011 the decision global prominence speed justice direct way to resource effectively deal with climate, strengthening IPR redirects OSG energy questioning effectiveness and climate litigation because cozy 16 the SG influence the patent law dramatically has been SG interest in the patent law and FCC court issues 20 CBHGs and patent law and adopted SG's recommendation and 17 SG influence the organized the federal circuit these trends continue and SG issues CBHGs in 10 cases without any recommendation. It's 8. Extinction Series 21 climate could be accentuated with a hot house or from the society's possess some adaptation heat. And then pose a physical limited direction price includes the levels of extreme disaster depression, scarcity, viruses, and migration, the presence of a collapse of society's positive loops that lead to irreversible runaway climate change threshold to exist. At 2C, if the goals of other nations to keep a change below, a threshold at X central. Can you find me a different defense on the case? Yeah. Next up is topicality interpretation. IPR petitions are statutory report, and agency action is enforcement, not protection. Course below 21, the IPR systems are comprised of two distinct systems: IPR protection reports and the IPR protection relates to the statute to the country, the legislature, the country, the office of stronger IPR protection generally provided. Legislative framing the IPR protection, the wide range of type of the IPR assets weak protection relates to provision of some IPR. No IPR is codified in the evidence is written in the legislative books. The subject to the interpretation, the judiciary and other public enforcement agents such as customs, police, and treating standards because the application of the IPR practices is the discretion of the IPR enforcement agency, even the IPR framework includes laws that enable punitive sanctions that may never be utilized by the judiciary. Customs Office, Roadneck, one limits course affirmatives, explode. The topics include any altering judicial precedent or the litigation process. 2 is ground and move to courts codified. And a court topic generic, most DAs dependent correctional action, like politics and election. Now the case, no cultural diversion. In fact, U.S. copyright cannot stop global divergence in culture, religion, nation state, identity, etc. Their evidence does not say cultural divergence is the reason conflict escalates. It just says there's one of the many conflicts, no war, will respond about appeasement, avoid military conflict, Russia and China, trade tables, and need to stay one central international environment and either seen Harvard troops, expansion by military success in the country, as for influence, the success in the worth of World War and in the U.S. A substantially disarmament. Now, the Felstein evidence has authoritative said global norms inserted Yale below that a democratic peace is statistically disproven as conflict driving 221 deputies and characterized as one of the same time. A demonstration of democracy made to look at the variables of lighting, even not common concept that may be unreasonable, generating antigens of variables. Each remains poorly understood and quickly readjust applying IBA having taken into account antigen needs and marketing have a pacifying effect by any sure democratic countries are more likely to attack than not. Now, that also serves as defense to their impact now the industry advantage. It's a polarization is inevitable. Trump populism, divergent views, etc. Only the OLRC kind of could assault by changing the process of the government. It causes more polarization from fake news, and outright media know what's on this weapon's impact. Shari 17, the suggesting drones to be used at WMDs and markedly there's no evidence that government planning of mass-produced drones is counter-civilization, counterparts, and not counter-right everything is countermeasures. U.S. is working in ways to shut down, jam, or defeat drones with defensive countermeasure, be priority, any weapon. Actually, should I say this? Just is that a contradiction? No, it's fine. Okay. WMD is smuggling military-grade weapons in the Western country as an enough as a fear-mongering. Now, the environment impact.
Just read no environment wars. That's fine. Okay. Yeah.
No environment wars. Yoshua 21, the conflict rates estimators on Neo Malthusian arguments used to support the academic little rates of any cause of conjunct. Along that class answering ICC not showing evidence for the link. Articles do not see Yoshua itself resulting in, and the outcomes impact are contingent on the factors global, they may be regional, effects will be adaptations of these global laws are not accurate outcome to take the opposite view. Climate is manageable. Now the
You said you're good.
What?
You said you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Status of everything?
Conditional.
Okay, U.S. Code counterplan.
Yeah.
How do you defer without protecting copyright?
What do you mean? Like how do
Like
we
the
defer?
last sentence.
Because U.S. Code is not does not have the force of law when you insert a no source provision.
Okay.
But it would be followed on by other branches.
Okay, so the ORC usually just makes grammatical changes to the law. The counterplan changes their status to put a new law in place. Why would that solve partisanship?
The reason it solves partisanship is because anytime there's a dispute over what the law says, the ORC can insert a no source provision to resolve that dispute. I'm not going to explain more.
Okay, but you drastically changed their traditional role in the law.
Not necessarily. They're meant to do adjustments to the U.S. Code, but they haven't done no source provisions in the U.S. Code.
Okay, OSG, the net benefits, just the disad and the internal. Is there any?
It's not the DA.
Not the disad? the counter?
OSG is just internal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, your internal net benefit, internal link card says that the SG acts as the agent for rule of law now. Why is the counterpoint key?
Because they need the credibility in order to enforce the rule of law and provide recommendations about economic
Well, it says they're
processes
already
in the government.
enforcing the rule of law in the SQO.
It doesn't say they're enforcing the rule of law. The point is that there's many policies that the Supreme Court does not have a lot of knowledge about. For example, IPR, it's a very dense legal topic with a lot of economic related reasons and impacts. So the OSG is necessary to analyze those and provide a recommendation.
Okay. Buddhism, is it a floating pick?
No.
Okay.
I mean, wait, what?
Potentially.
OSG. The link is about patents, and it only says that the OSG has influence, not that it would trade off.
First of all, the link is not just about patent law. That is one example it gives, but it also has issued multiple recommendations in the past over IP in general.
It says it's explicitly about patent law. But like, that doesn't
Well,
answer my
that's
broader
no
question, is
example.
why does it trade off?
The reason it trades off is because the OSG currently is doing a ton of climate suits. It's a super dense legal process. They only have a couple months left. But the plan immediately forces them to focus on a different case, invest the legal
Why does the
effects,
app
the
involve
economic effects.
Why does the app
which all
involve the
trades off.
SG?
What?
Why does the app involve the SG?
We think it would be normal means of the plan. It's more likely
Like
that
normal
the
yeah.
courts will call the SG to get their opinion.
Okay,
yeah.
so it's the courts. Okay.
the,
Okay,
the
so
courts
you-
do not have a lot of expertise in the economic effects. of
Okay,
IPR.
sure. Let's go back to the OLRC counterplan. Why is doing it over the AF key to net benefit?
Because it would like spill over to net benefit.
Okay,
It would
yeah, but
break
like, is
the-
there a specific reason doing it over the plan is key?
I mean, we think it would be good to sort of plan.
Okay,
I
sure.
mean, we can make arguments
Same
later
question
about
with
whether
OSG.
This app is key. What?
Same question with OSG.
I mean, we think the plan is a clear policy that explains why the OSG and the OLRC can increase their influence. I think something vague or something less important would
Okay.
not increase
Also,
their
by the way,
influence.
you changed the
the violation
process
on
for
T is
registration of
just-
copyrights, which is
The
a huge
violation
thing
on T
as
is
well.
just no courts, right?
What?
The violation T is no courts,
No
right?
courts or agencies.
Okay, yeah.
Alright. Okay. Seven 12. advantage 1. Advantage 2. T. New app's bad. US code counterplan. The OSG counterplan. The K. The OSG deal.
Okay, I'm good.
Hey, can I have the order one? Yeah, sorry.
1, 2, T. New app's bad. US code counterplan. OSG counterplan. K. OSG deal. Good. No global causes. The app solves global causes by realigning the U.S. with multilateral institutions now, specifically the Berne Convention, which solves all treaties because it's the foundation for all multilateral cooperation. Because countries look at the Berne Convention for modeling onto their treaties. That's the evidence, and uniquely solves all causes because it ensures it's global cooperation. No all causes to cultural diversities. They cause extinction. It's the root cause of all war and guarantees escalation between NATO, Russia, EU, terrorism, etc. That's evidence, statistical analysis, prove it as a reverse causal. And no all causes that's partisan, race, and religion are such small compared to cultural divergencies. Cultural divergences are that was about yes, war. The evidence is just about China and Russia doesn't assume unique hotspots to escalate globally and in the future because those cultural divergencies guarantee escalation no matter what. Because it's a long-term conflict that will escalate in the future. Their evidence is old from 2017. It doesn't assume new escalation next to Ukraine that are happening now. Yes, digital fragmentation causes extinction. It means we can't effectively coordinate solutions to climate change and land breakdown or environmental degradation. That's felt seen. Even if we lose democracy, none of their democracy bad is self-answers, which means it's offense, but no link to democracy bad. We only increase openness and reduce tensions. Also, the evidence about the process of democratizing nations, which is no, we do. We just prevent authoritarianism. Democratic collapse causes extinction. Bill 23. Totalitarianism versus extinction by dealing with disasters with cognitive personalization, distance for accurate info, raising the less score, no lack of transparency, limits, increments for better climate change, inequality, offensive power, erratic, lacking in AGI, no future decade, stress, but also surveillance, merchants, power, extend, distortion, image trajectory, threat, and discussion, potential TPD is accurate, joining unobserved, confounding and research, methodological problems in social science, randomizations, really feasible assumptions, and yield, company results, and like sensitivity, analysis, capability, essential rule, analysis, research, the layer, robustness of findings by quantifying the minimal strength, and finding them, must exist in all situations, but it does the rest as never between spiking, lucky research, must find competitors more associated than have to be identified in practice studies so that we can conclude empirical evidence supports democratic peace. Advantage 2. Polarization is not inevitable. Our evidence specifically says that small businesses are key to solve all these causes because they produce good information that citizens think is true and will go here with, and they think society is more true, even if there are all causes like Trump, etc. Small businesses, small newspapers are the key to solve this. And 1C2 is that fake news. It's irrelevant. No, there's no warrant for this. It was a tackling. It was just analytic with no warrant. Yes, small businesses or small newspapers or give truth, and it doesn't matter if it's truth or not. It's just a perception of it as solves. No, we don't have an autonomous weapons impact, and so it's irrelevant. But disinformation causes extinction, causes internal divisions, globally prevent global cooperation of accidental risk because no one trusts each other. Schmattensberger and overconsumption depletes necessary resources we depend on. Approaches us past planetary boundaries causes extinction. That's Imensberg, and it causes escalation over environmental degradation, which causes land and resource conflicts which go nuclear. Yes, environmental wars. It doesn't assume mass depletions that's happening now due to climate change. T. We meet with Congress. Is US that. New laws are good, incentivizes private critical thinking and organization generates to solve their offense, but they don't justify anti-default to reasonability. US code counter. One can solve a harmonization. Effective commitment to international cooperation law requires exemplary compliance via congressional commitment. The counterbalance is a mixed signal causing mistrust from other countries, which spoils credibility. That's cooked. B. Industry. Without a guaranteed fiated remedy, copyright owners will be chilled from uncertainty over remedies due to historically ambiguous federal action, which destroys the creative industries. That's hardline. And C. Delay or impacts are fast could happen in the meantime. 2. The plan and the counterplan over other issues. Counterbalance can be potentially functionally key to objectivity of and research. 3. Due to the counterplan. 4. No internal spillovers in their evidence says that the existence of congressional bureaucracy and this growing exploitation, not that the ORC needs to take out a new role at zero risk. Regardless, the ORC won't revitalize the role. B. No impact of tiny agency in Congress can overcome decades of disagreement and polarization. Get this garbage out of here. C. The app solves polarization. 5. Do both of the shields so they can't spill over. 6. Permanent the counterplan and the app as a result as a specifying sequence, but not time frame. And 7. Permanent the counterplan non-positive titles still carry the force of law. ORC no take. Could have divided the titles according to the subject matter somewhere in positive law and rest non-positive law. Non-positive and positive law contain but contain general titles. 2 types result from different processes. Non-positive law contains several connected to 2. 7. Counterplans the result.
a counterplans are into adoption of resolution minutes are voting fiat and incentives are unbeatable. Subject to infinite clarification, never touch staff research every mechanism in the library, reject the team, and anything else which destroys theory, destroying fairness. OSG counterplan. One case all, of course, are key industry topic 20. Fourth estate, as a clear corporate much needed amendment, the requirement must be removed by to properly comfort and taking changes in methods and people which works out distributed ever and Cheryl. Under 6 says core health without delay. And the registration is not appropriate to achieve balance various small entities overwhelming adventures in eliminating outweigh any drawbacks. Be harmonization. Historically, the Supreme Court has upset international law beyond trustworthy interpretations cover other countries. Whichever the state counterplan is an ambiguous signal that contradicts congressional intent, which follows harmonization that's clear teeth clarity. Congress is the only way to fully resolve the circumstance and ensure equitable enforcement of Feature 11. Applications of Feature plan and the unambiguous meaning of Copyright Act text justice is usually mandated to effectuate intended public policy. A resolution of country of viewpoints is not foreseeable. Congressional intervention and residence are quo. Uncertainty surrounding registration. Congress must review 411 A to resolve a slip regarding the suit registration and eliminate 2 to the plan and cattle plan over other issues. Cross-apply competition. Standard 3 permit the cattle plan 4 no internal. 8 does spill over the single. The evidence the evidence does not specify that it's going to spill over broadly. Just that it might solve in the context of the cattle plan. Be no impact. It's obviously not. Be no impact. Those long-term and intermittent actors will always solve. And the short-term 5 permanent growth actors shows can solve. 6 permanent cattle plan that the average result is 7. Yeah. OSGG or K. One framework with the applicants links to the plan's valid implications. Their interpretation moves the applicant defense in the office. For instance, the only impact in pure poor clash and eliminates educational benefits. 2 both the self and shields. 3 extension outweighs Bill's eye. And it's irreversible, which includes any alternative within life including the K. 4 no link properties inevitable. The app doesn't give more power, which is what the K is about. The one that's one card K highlighted and announced with no coherent reason to why. Removing the registration copyright wouldn't link to it. But so if we get any wishes to make it a little bit low it up in the block. 5 all can solve. 8 doesn't do the app. B the all cases cracked down on by the state. Fascists Republicans will crack down and do everything to prevent it. 6 floating Pixar no possible leverage of epistemology. It makes the auto moving target. Dex fairness and clash. 7 no impact is just about evil scientists invading bad things. IBF's law set and through ensuring that there's sustainable regulations around it, or it's inevitable because there's no checks on it. The obviously can't solve. OSGD. 1. The courts in Congress have systematically removed registration formalities for decades and delay. 18. Court made copyright as a threshold that remains any work and ability created that possesses creativity qualified use systematically has not removed and administrative formalities submitting is not a condition or is compliance with and does this enough and affects how work is protected regardless of office's opinion. 2. No link. The office Congress of the SG obviously isn't evolved. 3. A link is inevitably thumbed. Courts will inevitably make new interpretations for climate litigation is inevitable. Nothing the SG does. Just often the courts will always rule in favor of it anyways. 5. The evidence is about patent law means it's thumbed and not about copyright law. So there's no link. 6. It's a dissent of the cattle plan because obviously will draw away. The counterplan would draw away attention from the cases it's doing now. Local fashion industry is different by IP arcade challenge to big fashion, which is a major driver of water shortages. Wayne 23, fashion's a powerhouse under 1.5 trillion, employed over 775 million individuals, significant cultural value of society's values and aspirations, a tool for social change, civil rights activists work, Sunday Best West, they challenge the institutions that can't back be part of the bottom BLM. We can't be the single support for a fight, against release and brutality, systemic racism, the fashion industry, and like significant social harm responsible for significant water scarcity, 2,000 liters of water produced, 1 cotton showing test style drying, like out of 20% was worldwide need for cheap and quick production and contributes to exploitation of low wage labor in the developing world for the companies. Not a single one paid living wage, all workers in supply chain design privacy wants to through all segments from privacy involving small taking the small independent designers work when an independent designers copy the evidence when important to loosen for average only once in stars may be problematic phenomenon both for their sake creating significant deterrent for small creators. Which thumbs decides and Wayne 23 fourth estate is part of the precarious given the statutory limitations on pedestrian actions have a deterrent effect on independent research. The job artists say it difficult to imagine emerging designers spend money on litigation advantage of expanded IP and independent designers establish themselves not yet a super good role claiming could be on with bigger brands never consider legal action and because they consume really expensive Zara Athletica where the infringement claims 5 cost of actually bringing a company to court remains insurmountable variable. And OSG counterplan. Their internal link for the counterplan says that OSG needs to stay legitimate. Only a risk of the counterplan makes them look illegitimate because it says that OSG solves climate change and says quo. And yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
Can we get those cards?
Yeah. That's not the perp text.
Okay.
There's that.
I mean, if you're trying to start fast now.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. U.S. Code counterplan. You said non-positive titles still carry the force of law. Where does that say that in that card?
Right. It says the titles are divided into subject matter, positive law, and non-positive law, and they both contain laws.
Yeah, they contain laws. Where does it say that?
Right.
Like,
They both contain the same material effect. They both contain the same material effect. They're just identified as two different
okay,
things.
sure. The delayed thing. You're like, our impacts are fast, you know, they can happen in the meantime. Then, like, your evidence is from 2021, why haven't they happened yet?
Wait, what are we talking about?
The delay deficit.
Right, we've read evidence that we think fragmentation is happening in the status quo. There's no multilateral cooperation.
but
That's advantage one.
your
Advantage
evidence
two.
is from like 2020, 2021. Why haven't these impacts happened yet if the impact is fast?
I mean, that probably makes it more of a brink. Like, it's predictive in the future
Well,
that's
okay,
coming
how
now.
do you know it's going to happen now? Your evidence doesn't even
Our
assume
evidence says
well.
it's coming now. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what you want me to
2021,
say.
2020.
Like, you want me to, like, list you a date?
What? Okay. Let's go talk about the like democracy bad thing. You say no link. We only increase internet openness and reduce tensions. Your 1AC evidence explicitly says, says quote, democracies will fracture and it will become easier for authoritarians to set their own rules. How is this internet scenario distinct from democracy?
Sure, we think your scenario is going to be, most of your cards about like democratizing states and the process of that causing war. That's not the app. It's just about preventing. It's authoritarianism bad, not democracy good.
Wait, okay, that was not the no link argument you said though. I'm asking
Right.
about
Well,
the,
yeah,
like,
we
no
said
link,
there's no
we're
link.
only,
We
like,
don't
internet.
increase democracy because we
What?
only increase internet openness and reduce tensions.
Okay, what do you think the impact of that is then?
Laundry list of things.
Like,
Authoritarians, breakdown of cooperation.
well, you
climate
just
change.
said no link, we're only internet. And
Yeah,
then
I
you
just said
that causes
it's
authoritarianism.
authoritarians bad, not democracy good.
Okay, sure. Wait, how do you get to authoritarianism bad as an impact?
You just said the line for us.
Then how do you get the no link argument?
Because we don't increase democracy.
Okay, sure. Reasons to reject the team.
Counterplans that result in like resolutional mandates, voting picks. I think that was it.
Okay.
Condo, right?
Yeah, what about condo?
Did I say condo? Did I say condo?
Did say it? Okay.
No, I don't think so. Unless you caught it, but like I didn't say it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I mean, if you want to, sure, we could pretend I did.
The one is like the case, the first advantage. Where does it start hard to say that only cultural divergence is the reason for conflict?
Yeah, it's like really good. It specifically says that there's so many analysis that have determined that's literally reverse causally the source of conflict.
Okay,
It
well,
says
how
that
does
other
US
all causes
how does
like
US
ethnicity
copyright
and
spill over
religion
to solve
are
that?
irrelevant. Yeah, it's about like international harmonization.
Yeah, that's my point.
The Berne Convention, yeah, we've read evidence that the Berne
what
Convention
evidence do you have that
specifically
these countries
resolves
who are,
these
like,
cultural
extremists and-
divergencies.
okay. You good? Yeah, that's all.
Okay. U.S. Code, Buddhism, OSG, counterplan.
Give me 1 second. Okay.
The counterments also whole case, the revised Title 17 of the U.S. Code to clarify the plan. The code is technically a non-binding summary of the law, but perceived by all lawyers, courts, litigants, as authoritative. Designations of eligibility are governed and spelled out by Title 17. That's Harper. Their evidence says the reinterpretation solves 1 Code 18, being in Section 411A is ambiguous. Circumstances of reinterpreted Section 411A. The result is identical. ORC clarification is misperceived as binding law. Show 20. Law negotiation enactment and code ORC has the power over. And the courts, litigants, and public see later orders to code is when Congress lawyers took only to the code, ignoring the statutes from or accepted the code is accurate and treated ORC to the law. law is incorrect. The first is not a notice to improve lobbying. Let's get confusing and topics even not positive. So that ambiguities imposing appearance of perfection. Courts will look to the code and stop there. It's taken as synonymous with federal statutory change. And tries 20 OLC selects the statute that requirements for the code. A project exception of the code is also synonymous, and government presents the code as authoritative structure. Public code website would not have a link to statute. Will look for statute the code is the only stop in the even. Professionals that ignore the law side coordination of the laws and look used for interpretation. Neg, the counterplan is good enough, even if not perfect. View it relative to the status quo, not the plan. Nobody knows the legalese. So it looks like a definitive clarification. Certainty, all those deficits at the top are zero. The optics of the counterplan are identical. The US code looks authoritative, and even if not, it'll be miscited and erroneously codified as the law. That's crossed. They dropped the second plank. We fiat the executive and courts defer to the OLC's interpretation. So nobody contravenes the message. It links to the case. All statutes are replicated in the code. Looking to once the statute is enacted, only to use statute in specific purposes of the US code. No impact. Some uncertainty is inevitable due to constant litigation. 95% of the evidence says that outcome is key, not process. It sends a clear message that's viewed as indistinguishable from hard law. Second, the codification takes place in culture. Choose code is a shorthand for legislative code. Law citation, the blue book moved on the only public law only code to a clear message about the community's considered identification. Legislative codes are just lawyers can be statute for each phase of the code. Not the statute, the court recent and fast and recent overlooked it fast. That's the overwhelming track record at the Supreme Court of 19 statute authoritative code is although if you look at these citations of the videos of the Supreme Court, the opinions set the code without the pedigree of statutes that letter than Congress and lawyers and judges to the code on a daily basis. We're gonna check the law beneath. It's comparatively clear. Lever 13. The take ACI try to read it. Let's say the section 27 of 40 by starting to applying and starting individual plan the academic for pages and figuring out the current law strategy to practice closer to essential one. Incomprehensible makes sense. One lawyer judge the agency the public ultimately rely on it. Authoritative lawyer sees work well the online version can be browsed and searched. Now the delay deficit fiat solves the counterplan's instant, just like the plan. It can't be comparative. We both fiat. That the United States should take action. It'll be updated and still be left for 13. Also, terms of publication about the US code website or reorganized for current code version to complete current, including all values enacted the version. Reduces by months of the same new law need to be incorporated. Tech. OLC provide faster and efficient updating formal law as far as lawyers show 20 oppositive law imposed on Congress. The burden of Congress on turn itself to bear Congress, but amend the exact places there's no salt and Russia to consider the legal process positive law slow. When it's time to improve the coherency, these are OLC rather and Congress positive law slow with no end in sight. Even if there's no impact, nothing is short term. The case is far off, and IP law has been unchanged for years. Other issues are intrinsic. The counterplan only clarifies copyright law to include the plan, nothing more. Counterplans must be functionally competitive. Prefer it. One is ground. Plan specific eliminates all generics and impossible burden against new apps that destroys fairness. Germanus is meaningless and will shift to encourage small cases. The dodge class. Two is logic. Textual competition destroys opportunity costs with semantics and plan software independently. Justifies functional severance to face the app moving target and prevents testing. No abuse. They're guaranteed ground because all counterplans are distinct from the plan. They speak last name input prep. Define deficits. Air neg. Any load for intrinsicness is arbitrary. And will snowball could engulf whatever you did. Worst case interpretation. Functional competition only versus new apps. Solve their offense independently. It doesn't solve one is vagueness. Numbers 20 cards specify the particular title because OLC is college title. In general terms, if I see our legislation which is certain OLC concentrate. If freestanding OLC cannot differ from themselves and not direct title rules of appears position not knowing upper liquor version consistency can be found whose authority fight stress. Terms to codify race questions that the allude adds or what version can be authoritative law code to the authority founded on labor discussion revision and passing created by the elections to replace. Essentially, the code was involved in separating governments from the period down to code pre-official law. The problem is surgery on coding is exactly requires advanced planning and execution is not suited to rushing confusing legislative careful drafting that benefit outweighs magnitude polarization, unleashes existential risk, partisanship ensures governance failure, overwhelming congressional response capacity to threats like climate change, sodium B spread, or nuclear war that's frontline and makes extinction inevitable. Rule 21. Politics is versus the polarization. American system will produce anything unless it gets enough good to produce polarization in the US. US only the fruits of polarized duopoly disasters that bring the future go badly. Climate change, AI, biotech, and the market involving news ruin everything. Duopoly is going to kill us. The truth no care about getting it right. They just care about the next one. The power back and forth, the issue of the mud. It gets into the pandemic and suffer from climate change. The world will suffer as a result. The counterplan does tame polarization, expanding the OLC's role, lawmaking mainstreams expertise and independence by devolving power to a non-partisan office. Congress can punt on thorny questions of authority and leave the OLC to take the fall. It creates a conflict resolution mechanism that acts as an off-ramp for hyper-partisanship that's cross empowering the OLC, bolsters institutional capacity, offsetting the externalities of polarization. Between 23 and responsible polarization opposition, provide the expertise that make the lawmaking possible. OLC utilize Congress declining some achieve internal. OPTA offer byproducts of party leadership. No one would dispute effective as well. They support quality, increase in capacity. To Congress bureaucracy, noting that the capacity to expand digital capacity is focusing on bureaucracy. There are two little iterations of Congress. In the admin state now, they said the app solves polarization among U.S. citizens, but our net benefit is about congressional polarization, which they don't have an internal link to. Our net benefit's about people in Congress literally working together, which the app cannot solve. Do both links or its severance. It amends the law itself, which requires congressional enactment or judicial decision beyond the OLC that triggers fights and destroys the perception of non-partisanship necessary to shore up legitimacy. That's cross. It's also mutually exclusive. The counterplan says without expanding copyright law, which they did not permute, no source requires the provision not to have any basis in an actual law. That's cross. Evaluate terms through offense defense. It can only link more, so there's no reason to include the plan. Do the counterplan severs the voting issue for clash and now
net ground. It does not protect copyrights. The U.S. Code is technically non-binding, operating solely as a clarifying instrument that summarizes the law. Any later uptake is by effect and based purely on solvency, not mandates. Code is a fundamental alternative to formal law that's cross. Copyrights are exclusively defined by statutory law, WA 24. Copyright is a constitutional statute. As you sort of those granted by statute is clearly the plaintiff must be not a exclusive writer. Copyright under traditional principles, statutory regulation for the purpose that all omissions should be understood as exclusions. The counterplan is neither statute nor binding. It's treated as law, but it's only a summary statement promulgated by the OLRC, Dorsey 7 year long statute authorities with the imitation laws carried out by Congress. The president is sent to archives the text not through the law of the U.S. Published in the statute law with the United States. The code and the use interpretation of the code instead of close that requires the code is just the opinion of one house office to be interpreted, and this is the uncontested consensus of Congress and the Supreme Court on Monday, notice 99. It is indisputable when the title of law to be enacted by Congress code, not specifically for the code comfortably used as statutes until enacted can only look like the law of the SC, makes it specifically clear through appears as fourth law statute. Provide a law preferred non-enforcement destroys ground by spiking DA links, and soft law explodes limits into infinite procedural questions or guidance. The delay term is intrinsic. It adds temporal separation between the counterplan and plan, even if each can be delayed. That's new sequencing that's fiated by neither. Rejected. Intrinsicness destroys all ground. They can specify normal means to spike time-sensitive or age-specific DAs and prevent education about real-world trade-offs. Independently, the treaty did not include a formal text. Scratch it. It's impossible to make servants' arguments. Read DAs since I'll shift the perm in the 1 AR. We don't need to win this, but it's never should. That's immediate. Sorry. 17. Already meaning should its expediency. Preferred delay justifies science fiction, destroys family education, and spikes ground. Worst-case examples don't apply. The delay counterplan can be excluded on theoretical grounds or beaten with a time-sensitive advantage. It has the force of law. Is next solvency. We'll concede it. Title 17 is codified, but the counterplan's clarification of it is non-binding. Their evidence says that formal amendments must be enacted, not the counterplan. The card also says it nowhere. At best, it says they have laws and statutes, but it doesn't say that those are codified or that they have a force of law. Empirics prove the OLC frequently revisits codified law. Means 15. When Congress revisits code exception and aggressive codified and code substitute changes when you the OLC revised and if reference to codified code years later and like the LCR changes are non-binding absent enactment. Now the theory, no link. It's not an incentives counterplan and never incentivizes the plan. It's a pick out of expanding IP law instead of modifying U.S. code. That's good. One, testing it to prove the topic, rejecting hard law that finds this policy and it's fair. Any defensive topical action beats the counterplan. 2 is deck flex. Target is huge and destroyed it. They speak last and choose their case. Only generic counterplans. Balance ground. 3 education. Show by 20. And the precedent laws are presented known as codification. Skip judgments and callers failed to account for process left. Gaps on the OLRC is the real world application of central understanding diplomacy. Understanding codification provides accurate path forward. No offense. Say no beats the whole genre. They can say binding key or trend that a benefit. Air neg theories arbitrary and regressive. The Buddhism came. Floating picks reject the argument, not the team that solves their offense. OSG counterplan. If they said conditionality, the arbitrariness argument under the other issues form the counterplan says that all non-resolution theory is bad and should be rejected.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. The trust card says that the public, like members of the public who look at it, will stop in their search. Where do you think it talks about, like the courts or Congress?
So it says that the government presents the code as an authoritative source, and then it also says, I mean, of course, it says the public looks at the code, but it also says that citing changes in code rules is something that is cited in Supreme Court decisions, which is below.
But I'm confused. It also says like they just don't use them in their statutory interpretation.
Where does it say that?
At the end of the trust card.
That's session law, so that's talking about things that aren't the U.S. Code.
Okay, so what is U.S. code?
U.S. Code is basically a book that shows what the law is. It's like notes that explain what the law contains. Lots of statutes are eventually ported to the code, and we also think that the plan over in the future would also be part of the U.S. Code.
The Dorsey card just says like it's not actually like statutory law, but what do you think it says like it's not force of law?
The Dorsey card, where is this?
The permanent counterplan.
Yeah, so this says that it's imitation law. Like it says that the U.S. Code itself is not a statute. It's not something that is used in statutory interpretation.
Yeah,
And it says that it's not a real
it's
law.
not statutory and it's not like in
It says
statute.
it's a
Where do you think
Cliff's
it
Notes
says, like,
guide to the real law. That's all the code is. That's all it's supposed to be.
but where do you think it talks about how like you've made a distinction between copyright has the force of law and
Again,
it's
it
always
says the
statute.
code is just the opinion and judgment of one House office. That means that it's not like the literal laws of the United States, but it's rather something that the public, courts, and Congress all look to represent the law. It's something that says what the laws are, but it's not literally the law.
I'm confused. Like the evidence, like sure, it says like it's recommendations for the law, but I'm confused where it mentions anywhere at all. Where it's
I mean,
like
it
the
says-
difference between non-positive
quote,
and positive
we
law,
read
and force of
imitation
law and
law.
non-force of law.
I don't think imitation law has the force of actual laws.
Why not?
I mean, it's imitation law. Like it's something that represents and shows what the law says, but it's not literally the law.
Okay, why would people start looking at the law? Like, they see a copyright change in the U.S. code. Why does everyone look to it?
Again, that's the card's uncertainty. They basically say that everyone thinks that the US code is actually the law since it ends up representing the majority of the laws, and that the court, Congress, and the public all look to it to determine what the laws are. US code is generally easier to interpret than complicated statute, so most people go look at it first.
Like, how does the OLRC work? Like, how do they actually change the law? Like, what's the process?
Like the OLRC is able to make updates to the US code.
So they just like do it secretly, or like
They
is
don't
it
do it
open to
secretly.
the
I
public?
mean, they announce that they're going to do it, and then they change the US code. They publish it on their website. I mean, it's a government office.
Okay, so if they update the website, why do people like notice that?
Again, people look to the US code to figure out what the law is. In the same way, the plan isn't telegraphed. Like Biden doesn't
Sure,
come
it's
out
like
and be
it's a
like,
new
hello,
bill.
like this
It's
is
like a
something.
new bill.
I mean, it is a new bill, but the counterplan is an amendment to the US code, which is also equally telegraphed. I mean, Biden could talk about it if he wanted to.
Okay. I'm setting it up. It's gonna be just the like wherever you float the add-on, and then the case and the other one too.
Oh, actually, how much do we have left?
951.
$9.46.
Let me know whenever D gets it.
Sorry, what was add-on then what?
Then just the case order. And like I guess for flow's sake, the turn is at the top of case. Let me know whenever you get it. And okay. And MBA.
Oh, I just.
Cool.
They basically just read an add-on without an impact. They said it leads to water shortages, rural impacts on that. Dislodges the Iranian Ayatollahs. Burvan 21 of the Iranians are thirty arrested for the country. The Iran is essentially water bankrupt. With demand for achieving this line, the Iran has been using water in sustainable ways. This reason to think the process may end up being more inconvenient to Ayatollahs. Opposition has been hammered around politics and a division for Ayatollahs. Movement has been in change of water to keep up the force of line. The crisis is universal. That's had on the previous anti-regime activism. The water is provided a rallying point. Authorities find difficult to spell. If they read an impact to their card, they didn't send it out, so you should scratch off your phone. Continuous theocratic control of Iran causes extinction. Medal 21 focusing on nuclear missing crucial facts of this danger. Located lies of the Republican of paranoid believe that Islam is existential. Iran is ideology, but they say those who do not regret end up being described. Hebrew civilization. Iran is akin to the empires of Nazis and Lebanon. Has been ruled by Iranian Hezbollah, and Iran does not have a horse drone program and cyber capabilities. Now the term democracy causes war, not peace. One stats: the only robust studies show democracy increases conflict. Certain countries are more likely to attack than autocracy. Appearance of democratic peace doesn't appear in the unobserved endogenous variables that flip the scale. That's Shiva. That's untrue in all scenarios, including against under other democracies. Shiva 21. The univariate model that ignores the endogenous replicates the democratic peace. Once we correct how this data no longer supports the conclusion negative coefficient, no longer overwhelms democracies, now increases conflict even against democratic target effects is significant whether we correct. For endogenous makes a significant difference. Variance to control generated omitted variable bias making it look at its own democracy pacify the conflict. It's a variable question answered by statistical models. Shiva 21. This has not been pursued in the past as the finding an instrument that regime trying to cope with regime type has been unrelated plague of researchers instruments are likely to have validity to dispel over interdependence and simultaneity. A democratic variable fertility variation is exogenous. 2 is autocratic peace. They turn inward to avoid conflict with result 11 autocrats. Shy away from conflict, the leaders have intended to forward wars as he trigger changes that destroy their power that change lives of weaker military resistant chances will be overthrown dictators to vote. Efforts to democratic repression of few resistance for the dictators. The caution will be blamed on defeat. Backsliding causes autocratic peace worse than 17D. Normative logic for DPT economics supported by autocratic peace or other constraints reducing conflict, political stability. Decrease conflict not only between democracies and autocrats as well. Characteristics linked to the peace is not unique. Audience costs extend to autocrats. Now, the first argument is no link. The one is the
evidence explicitly says once you're not regress into global authoritarianism, it says, quote, it'll become easier for authoritarians to set their own rules, and quote, democracies will fracture. We do have evidence democracy is bad and authoritarianism is good. That was all explained above. Now the well-founded evidence, it asserts that authoritarians aren't afraid of repercussions, which is obviously it is proven by autocratic peace theory. They fear regime change and they don't want to be overthrown. And also citing zero studies or empirical analysis, so air neg, because we have actual studies that turn obviously straight turns into democracies are worse at cooperation because they are constantly waging war, and the autocrats are more cautious. The impact is about arms control and cooperation. Arms control fails. Dodge 23 because arms control reflects the relations agreements are unlikely to accomplish much. Arms control is history failing the IR. ABM led the Soviet Union because in an offensive view, the INF continued with the thought until Russia she's assault failed. Russia to be sent arms control to advance the Russian goals. Mark that card. Mark that card at failed. Now the rest of the card also assumes that countries will cooperate, but democracy makes populist resentment and instability inevitable. That returns cooperation. Pella 18, democracy constantly relapsing, democracy about competition, but legislating exclusion. There's a plenty of common fiction, the partisan interest in ingredient and resentment. Democracy cannot promote each citizen and only a fraction majority, but minority sensibility, interest eroded. Citizenship always see the hungry citizen feel alienated, marginalized, or breed resentment. Now the DBT argument extended and explained above. They don't account for unobserved endogenous variables that flip the equation or cheap evidence. Explicitly says studies in the past have never accounted for it. Studies only appear to sound because they shift the goalposts. Beta 18, actually skip this card. Oh, and extended and indicted above. Now the impacts are unique hotspots are irrelevant. I'm pretty sure they said this on Great Power Aggression. And they don't have any unique hotspots that are going to escalate now for the democracy scenario. Now, no Great Power Aggression. Russia and China need stable and congenial relations with the U.S. and even globe for trade. And long-term goal is nothing really worth risking for world war. Even if the U.S. was weak, that's Mueller there. Their scenario makes no logical sense. Their card doesn't say that only cultural divergence is the reason that people escalate. They have other reasons. Regardless, they don't have a reason. Copyright will stop it. Religious or nationalist tensions from escalating. They're all their evidence about Islamic extremism in the Middle East, which they need evidence that they solve. Now the next fragmentation is wrong. It's all answered above by democracy because it's effectively just the impact to it is effectively just authoritarianism causes extinction, which was all extended defensive law. But limited, low impact internet is inevitable. Bay 19 extreme provisions only going to pass the requirements of Atlantic eventuality. Companies which have been more in America will not grant the inevitable. Now the industry advantage polarization, drop media causes more polarization because of things like Fox News and polarization in the media. Yes, all causes the world is already polarized in the world. Only a legal change of process can stop it. The impact is arms control. That's only thing the card says is a risk they dropped. It's never been a risk as regulation. Now all of that was conceded because they thought that the scenario was arms control. No climate war studies to prove the link between scarcity and conflict. And leaders will adapt with cooperating in any tension to be small and local. Thus, the wish evidence. The best studies agree. Cook 20 with the bridesmaid immersion standing requires this resource to turn to war. People also need to make capability to scarcity. Undervalued resource base and the link is highly conditional. Simply by the overstate the win. Offers makes evidence counter trends are blind pathways. Only every week support. No one has suggested climate can be your sole cause of war. We're going to happen because of weather.
Before y'all start, can I run to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, this is what's
7-12. That's not how it works.
Oh, okay.
Okay. 2, 1. The add-on, and then US code.
2, 1, the add-on and US code. Okay.
Okay.
Is it just 2 emails in the body?
Sorry?
Is it just 2 emails in the body?
Yeah, there should be 2 emails. Yeah.
One second.
Okay.
Concede local news takes out polarization, but also takes out their impact because Congresspeople are heavily influenced by the perception of local news. The consumer awareness prevents extinction basically drop. Mobilized response to the numerous environmental tipping points, including water shortage, air pollution, climate change, etc. That's Ehrenberg. Our evidence says it was caused extinction even without causing wars. We concede no climate wars. Not going for the war part. Our carbonization advantage. Cultural divergences cause extinction. NATO, Russia, Middle East war, EU secessionism are inevitable. Our evidence says the reverse causally increases the risk of conflict and cites the consistency of the literature. That's about evidence. Our scenario is in Russia and China, so this is not responsive. All causes are wrong. Multiple models prove that culture is the primary driver. Attention that's partisan. Only we have evidence on this question. Doodle fragmentation causes kleptocracy, climate change, and Russia, China war through disinformation. That's Feldman. It's not about authoritarianism, but the disinformation they create, so no defense to it. Democracy. Democracy solves extinction. First, cooperation. It's key to transparency and agreement over HI, biotech, climate, disease, etc. That's the Belfield or evidence. Second, war. Totalitarians are more unpredictable and less transparent, causing nuclear miscalc. No wink. We don't increase democracy. We maintain the quo, which means at best the impact is inevitable. Most of evidence about the process of democratizing a nation, which is not the aft. Democracy decreases the incidence of conflict. Third, confounding variables that can meaningfully explain the decrease in conflict. The relation is 5 times stronger than the one between smoking and cancer. That's a my third. Paramedic methods are alive and randomization to identify a causality. The litany of assumptions make them meaningless results. Place the burden on the neg to demonstrate the quality of evidence. Democracy. Back leaders are less hawkish. 23 leaders may of the Westwood cost of fighting. Nor gain more rewards relative to the followers. They exhibit a high probability of hog weighing the followers who will play more peaceful. By the way, in the case of over prediction, democratic peace accuracy. Followers show results in the increase in aggressive strategy. Assumption is well supported nature of leadership beneficial of access to resource. Our evidence assumes the variables they critique will be post-state autocrats. Turning inward is irrelevant. That inward move causes miscalculation because they'll go evil internally and spark miscalculated wars. That's Belfield. Arms control fails as a response of other external scenarios, but either way, this proves things like the NPT work. Populism is wrong. It's about internal resentment, which is irrelevant. The empirics disprove. We don't go to populations, and it doesn't implicate international co-op. Empirics prove democracy solves conflict begun in 17 democracy solve common challenges based on empirical evidence. Democracy is the best path towards achieving peace, leaders of the people, and shaping out the democratic government to address the causes of extremism and security. Mark the card of security. Adam. Our evidence is only about domestic, not Iranian water shortages. There's no link. It would never spill over to Iran. They haven't Iranian cards for this. No impact on our checks in place, and the U.S. would intervene to contain the spread of the conflict. U.S. code. Perm due to counterplan, non-positive laws are still laws. They've read 0 cards to differentiate them from the force of law. That's the 2EC OLRC evidence. Proves that counterplan carries the same force as a plan and is therefore not competitive. That's key to check back against cheating counterplans and that pick out of the affirmatives. Supposed force of law requirement that their interpretation opens the floodgates to any Asian counterplan the force from the lit which disincentivizes research. They also have any cards as saying the plan must carry the force of law. If we win that, then we don't have to win the counterplan isn't force of law. The last sentence of the counterplan text takes out every neg attempt at competition. If the adoption of the law change, which effectively fiasco the plan. Copyright definition is about how it is established through set 2, obviously, but not about how it's protected, which means it's not in the context of the resolution. It doesn't have the same intent any intent to define the size. Copyright is a copyright. UNT in the data distinguish definition of copyright is a copyright to protect artistic works. Dorsey doesn't distinguish between positive and non-positive. Almonte says Ev says the code wasn't intended to be law, not that it currently isn't. Strengthen protection means helping the rights holder. Only we have evidence about the verb of the resolution. Mandela 18. I constructed every court opinion Berlin, or statute of the Czech versus weekend university, protection afforded rights under decision, make it easier to acquire IP rights on the scale, never IP protection, make it easier to prevent infringement or stringent remedies for infringement, all stringent protection, not key to Netflix, econ distance and politics, they said, no one with pics check every app, patents bad, copyright bad, etc. Also solving for the generic every debate, the apps that are granted or soft law would obviously lose the solvency takeouts and the small risk they said because they don't durably fiat solvency. Cannot solve certainty if the counterpoint is non-binding, then no one abides to it, even if other breaches, I think it might be true. Companies who want to abuse rights will lobby for it in the square because they want to be able to infringe on small business. That's cartoon. All past instances have been ambiguous and non-binding. The counterpoint is a continuation of not giving companies assurances that their rights will be protected. Also, it can't solve the polarization that benefit because it dramatically changes the role of the copyright, the OLRC from what it is in the status quo, which would be perceived as partisan by Congress because they want to limit its power in the status quo. That was Unity Cross-X.
Doesn't solve harmonization. It requires statutory change in law.
Doesn't solve harmonization. It requires statutory changes in law
to solve the Berne Convention.
to solve what?
Berne Convention.
To solve for the Berne Convention. Okay.
9:46. Actually, wait, 1 second. I'm gonna go to the bathroom before we start. Okay. Sure.
Why didn't y'all get together?
Well, I just wanted to be suspicious.
It's okay.
Polarization outweighs try-die. Net benefit is dropped in the 1AR. They also dropped the polarization is a prerequisite to solving the case because it prevents all their impacts like climate, WMDs, culture expression, and nuclear war. That's Brundtland. They can't make the concession for case. The main cause of polarization is already entrenched. The argument is that we need a new mechanism that can bypass congressional polarization or give them a new mechanism for preventing polarization. They also dropped that it's only that their scenario is only about the public and that Congress doesn't necessarily look to the news. Second, all defense of the 1AR is about public polarization specifically, not congressional polarization. The counterplan is can solve it and is key. It expands the ORC's role in lawmaking. Congress does not have to vote for it. The counterplan fiats unilateral ORC action, so Congress has no choice. The ORC has full legal authority to the counterplan. Congress has nothing to criticize. That's across evidence, which is all dropped. Perm to the counterplan is a massive swing and a miss. It's severance, a voting issue for net ground and clash. The counterplan is not a binding revision to the U.S. Code. No government actor is legally bound to follow on. Following is effect, not a mandate. That means you can lose every definition and still win the debate because they don't have any arguments about whether an ORC clarification to the code is a binding statute. Independently, the act must be the force of law. Copyrights are defined as, quote, those granted by statute requiring the force of law. That's Nobilia. I have zero idea with the two definitions they read in the 1AR get them. We agree that copyrights are rights and that protection can be helping the rights owner, but that doesn't imply that they need to be implemented with the force of law. Now, framing issue. That means we have uncontested definitions and a predictability impact, but they have no defense to reject assertions from MBA that are not supported by evidence. This crushes debate with infinite, unpredictable prior questions. The counterplan is a summary statement to the ORC that's, quote, imitation law, which are, quote, Cliff's Notes guides to the real law. It's also, quote, just the opinion and judgment of one House office. That's all Dorsey. That means that the code is not binding law. Other agents are free to violate it, but they won't. As far as solvency debating below, they said non-positive laws are still laws. They don't carry the force of law. They're not legally binding. They're just not doing enough analysis here and have dropped too much evidence. Our definition isn't just about how copyright is established. It's about how copyright law is granted and enforced. It says, quote, the only rights that exist under copyright law are those granted by statute. Also, they dropped the Almonte Nunes evidence. Quote, it is indisputable that the only way that a title can rise to the level of law is to be enacted into positive law by Congress. That is not the code. We will kick the second plank. We don't fiat that Congress and the court follows on, so it's not technically binding them into anything. That doesn't mean they get new answers. This will be debated on solvency, but they conceded that those agents always look to the code, so it's functionally exactly the same. Now, prefer our definitions. 1, ground soft law. Affirmatives kill econ and trade-off decides because they fiat non-enforcement. 2 is limits. There's infinite procedural tweaks or guidance that different agencies could do. Internal agency consult conditions or recommendations absent a topical requirement of enforcement makes research impossible and kills fairness and forces the neg to uneducational extremes. Pigs don't check every app. Their interpretation removes all of them because the app can meet by effect, not mandate. If they don't have to fiat or mandate that the plan occurs, then they'll win every debate by pruning out of every counterplan. Patents bad and copyright bad, both lose to perm other instances, and predictability. 3 is predictability. Dropped. This is the consensus definition by legal professionals like the Supreme Court, Congress, law dictionaries, etc. That is the basis for all research. Deviating from predictable norms insulates them from rigor and creates contestatory ground that kills clash and fairness. Their offense is only agent counterplans. We do not allow them. This zeroes it. We only allow counterplans that compete off of soft law, which is not necessarily agent counterplans. Also, independently drop that you should skew competition negative in the face of a new app. That eliminates any hope of their offense, because if they didn't want a debate process, then they should have said the same app. Also, the app gets first class speech, which skews offense, which means that they have extra offense, and also you should bias towards the ground impact. The counterplan solves the case that strengthens copyright protection through a non-binding ORC clarification. The U.S. Code is the single most authoritative legal body that can nearly every single court, lawyer, litigant, and the executive branch follows through with. Our Chauvet and Trust evidence says that most authorities don't even look at formal statute and go straight to the U.S. Code looking for implementation details. Even if the counterplan is technically non-binding, it's misperceived as binding change to the law. All of the analysis is dropped in the 1AR. Every single U.S. Code is non-binding deficit is wrong because they dropped every answer. Their 1AC Cook evidence says that the issue is the vague meaning of U.S. Code section 411A. The counterplan is a direct reclarification of the U.S. Code that courts can cite in the future, which solves their offense and proves the straight turn to certainty. 2, everyone looks at the code. It'll be publicly published, and the ORC will announce that there's been a change. This has to be enough. Otherwise, vote negative presumption. Since the plan wasn't announced, they said companies will lobby. This is new in the 1AR, but the 2NC also preempted it. That means they don't get new answers in the 2AR because you already answered those arguments. 1, lobbying is inevitable. Remember, people don't know that congressional laws are durably fiated or binding, so companies and interest groups will assume that enough lobbying can change them. That proves the plan is more uncertain. 2, every argument about the signal above proves that people think it looks legally binding. They can't solve polarization. That was above. They say it doesn't solve harmonization. They hardly got a warrant out. Why do we need to change the Burns Convention? Is a question still lingering in everyone's mind. Hold the line, protect the 2NR. Regardless, people still look to the code, and the Congress and courts still follow on, which means that it still solved their offense, and they think it's an explanation of what U.S. statute says. They'll perceive it the same, clarifying the global signal. That was all above. Advantage 2, they said polarization, defense, concession. Our scenario is about congressional polarization that tempers our ability to manage multiple existential risks with the app impact. It's about citizen polarization. We said polarization was inevitable, and that only a structural legal process can create a shift. Our 1AC spillover evidence indicates that polarization is happening now, so enabling a flip of flexible and quick ORC is necessary to attainment, which is what we're referencing above.
Just the counter.
Sorry?
Just the counter. If we win permanently counterplan, we win this debate because it proves that the counterplan is just it could be the permanently counterplan is a way the plan can be done. The counterplan does not compete in any way if they last instance of the counterplan. It's the matter, but they kicked it. We're winning the positive law and non-positive law are the same thing. Only we have evidence that actually distinguishes them, which is the ORC evidence itself. That comes from its own website, which means that it frames the debate because the way the counterplan competes is that it's non-positive law, non-positive law. It doesn't matter. All the definitions about whether it has force of law is irrelevant because it doesn't matter if the positive law or non-positive law has force of law. They cannot only we have evidence that distinguishes between them, which means which says that they are the same thing. That the only way the difference between the process, the effect of them, is the same because they result in the same thing as implementing a title or force of law. That means positive law would be that it's through things like strict congressional bills or judicial decisions, and non-positive law is done through things like ORC edits to formal law. But the result is still the same because both are contained in lawful titles, which is the way they compete since it results in the same law. It's not competitive. Our offense outweighs its try die for AFCON. One AFCON is in the dumps now. Advantages are stale and are just wrong and lit-based. We get killed by almost any competent negative position like switch and errors. Zero F is a status quo IP warrant. There's no reason why doing the same protection outside of copyright is key when it provides the exact same legal protection or the cap gain links to every single app because we have to defend property rights. DAs like spillover provides some risk of a benefit to R&D and switch and errors counterplans which are not implicated by winning this competition argument. But two, negative stable analysis stops are confined to innovation scenarios. Every round you get built-in impact terms like innovation bad and strategic stability, and you have guaranteed impact terms like patents bad, copyright bad, and trademarks bad, meaning you have something no matter what. The ban losing on other issues is irrelevant because you don't have to read the counterplan, just read the turn because it gives you uniqueness every single round. The only way they only make things worse by opening up to a slew of cheating counterplans that pick out of the force of law that allows a myriad of Asian counterplans that can influence law but do not carry the supposed force of law with no deficits because the result is identical. They can read core cribbing with cars that the course following on would not be the force of law. They can read guidance and etc. The possibilities are almost endless and deficits are non-existent because it's the same resulting law. The error neg against a new app was not made on the 2C. It was a carve-out interpretation made on the other issues for him, not permanently counterplan, which means you shouldn't give it to him. But either way, it makes no sense. You shouldn't just error neg on competition because it just means that every single counterplan will become competitive because it's new app, like should counterplans, which are obviously bad. Now, their offense on here is horrible. Predictability is wrong. Our evidence is much more predictable. Chouinard did zero impact count. Debatability outweighs the title, and they haven't read a single card saying that the plan specifically must carry the force of law, so it doesn't matter if the counterplan uses the force of law because I haven't proven the plan has to, which comes prior. Their copyright definition is horribly really taken out of context. It isn't defining anything, but rather making a normative claim that copyrightable subject matter arises from congressional statutes. Our evidence is much better and it has an explicit intent to define in context. We have the simplest definition, which is to protect artistic works. Copyright may be granted by statute. The app doesn't grant new copyrights, which means this gets them nowhere. Either way, that doesn't mean that the protection of copyright has to be statutory. We have the best evidence about what strengthening protection means. Mandel defines protection as helping the rights owner. The act of protection doesn't carry the force of law, so the app doesn't have to either because it's already protected. The elementary evidence was not dropped, and when I indicted the car, it says the code wasn't intended to be law, but doesn't say that it literally isn't. There's no presumption argument durable fiat solves. The only other argument was that it's grounded in statutory law is Title 17, but we agree all laws are with copyright law might be grounded in title law, it's a statutory law, but the ORC also grounds it in the laws because they do it through a non-positive law, which still results in the same thing. That's the ORC evidence and the Cook's evidence, which is advocating for the counterplan. They have not read a single card that defines the distinction between positive and non-positive law. They've only read evidence that says that some ORC edits that aren't they said they've read evidence that says ORC edits might not be binding, but those they haven't defined those as non-positive law, which means either it doesn't solve the app because it's not what the counterplan fiats, or it definitely doesn't compete because it results in non-positive law, which we've said doesn't compete. But debatability, even if you were losing predictability, and debatability comes first. There's no value to a predictable topic if it isn't able to be debated. Teams will coalesce around community norms, not predictability, which solves. It doesn't matter if there's a resolution, if we can predict everything, because we're in the dumps. There's not going to be a still topic, even if it's even if we know what the words say, it doesn't matter because there's no ground to be debated on, and they haven't. You value the debate through a sliding scale. Even if we're not the most predictable in this round, we have large debatability options. So we have large debatability options. So if we are predictable enough, then you vote app. The Negron arguments was blipping in no office. They never said why. Things like econ DAs and agency DAs are key to all net ground. We provided ample enough, which was all above. but either way, they definitely don't lose this because soft law still results in economic effects. Otherwise, it obviously won't solve the advantages of the app, like innovation. And obviously, HTC trade-off still links to the app still has to be enforced some way. Or those apps lose on no solvency and any risk of a disapp because they don't fill out the plan or effects.
Maybe, probably. But where is he?
I don't know.
Does anyone
Like,
have his name?
apparently he was just wandering. I don't know.
No one's seen him. He's outside.
This kid.
Okay, well, I can see it on tab right now. But I don't know if that's a spoiler.
I don't think I hit publish.
No, but like the tabulation is because this is late, so they just want to
Okay.
start. Probably just the outside.
Okay. Congrats to everyone on making it to the semis of the Glenbrooks. This was a great decision. It was unanimous for the negative. I'm happy to go. So I thought that the counterplan competed. There was a massive difference in predictability, which outweighed at best a marginal difference in debatability. So I concluded predictability was very negligent because the negative's evidence is much better. It makes a clear distinction that one, copyright must be statutory. Davila says that the only rights that exist under copyright law are those enshrined in statute. The counterplan doesn't strengthen copyright protections, since doing so would require those laws to be protected by statute. The UNT definition of copyright says it's a property right, but I think the negative is correct that it doesn't answer their arguments that yes, it is a property right, but those rights must be enshrined in the law. Second, US code is different from the statutes. The negative evidence is much better. Some relevant lines that were all quoted in the 2NR were, we read imitation law, US code is a Cliff Notes guide to the law, and that their evidence cites the Supreme Court, which precedent which they say is best. The distinction between positive and non-positive law made in your evidence makes sense, but I think the counterplan is non-positive law. The Amati evidence says that for the code to become positive law, it must be proactively enacted by Congress into positive law. And the counterplan doesn't do that. It just inserts a provision into the non-positive law. Until enacted, it can only, quote, look like the law. So I think there's an impact to predictability that outweighs. The 2NR says it's a predictable definition to unpredictable definitions insulate debates from the topic, which hurts rigor and evolves into concessionary ground, which kills clash and fairness. Debatability was like very split. I think it's bad for the neg to debate non-enforcement apps and also bad for the app to debate them as counterplans. The defensive argument in the 1AR and 2AR is it's not key to neg flex since they get patents bad econ politics. The 2AR drops that patents bad loses to do the plan and ban patents instances perm and that non-enforcement apps wouldn't link to econ or politics. The negative has some defense to app debatability claims. They wouldn't allow cheaty counterplans since competition is exclusively based off carrying the force of law, so there is at least like a basis for a deficit.
Okay, I can go next. I go to neg as well. I started by looking at the OLRC card read by the affirmative. Sorry, I just lost what I was typing. My stuff. The 2AR makes two arguments on affirmative counterplan. One, the 2AR says that positive law and non-positive law are the same thing. And two, the 2AR says that the effect of them is the same. So implementing title or the force of law. I think the OLRC card actually hurts you more than it helps you. I don't think the OLRC card you have read says that positive law titles and non-positive law titles are the same thing. The card says that, quote, a positive law title of the code itself is a federal statute, whereas a non-positive law title of the code is an editorial compilation of federal statutes. The unhighlighted portion of the card gives examples of how a Title 10 Armed Forces is a positive law title because the title itself has been enacted by Congress. It also cites Title 42, which is considered a non-positive law because the title itself has not been enacted. I conclude that this is not the same thing since one is a statute and the other is not. I also think that this affects the second argument you make. I don't think the effect of them is the same either because the card says that non-positive law means that the title itself has not been enacted, which means that there's no reason people have to follow it since it's not been enacted into a statute. Now, I think the neg is winning a solvency question about why it would be perceived as binding or would have functionally have the same or functionally would have the same effect, but that's not related to competition. That's solely a solvency question. The one thing that made me pause about the OLRC card that I spent a little bit of time thinking about is the line that goes, quote, both types of titles contain statutory text that can be presented to a federal or state court as evidence of wording of the law, but I conclude even if it's written as statutory text, because it's not implemented and because it is not a statute, there's still the distinction between positive and non-positive law. I also agree with Eleanor that the neg cards are a lot better. The first Davila card, it just says that copyright is a creature of statute and the only rights that exist under copyright law are those granted by statute. The F card also makes this distinction as explained above, and I think which makes me believe that there is that distinction and this is a predictable distinction, so I lean neg, or I'm very neg on predictability, and I use that as the metric to determine the course of the rest of this debate. The Dorsey card, which is the other negative card is read, also makes this distinction. It makes the distinction between statutes which are not used versus imitation law and uses the US Code to illustrate the imitation law part of that. I think the neg has sufficient standards as well on neg flex, so I think predictability heavily outweighs debatability.
I voted neg. I think that most of the 2AR is much too new for me to buy your interpretation that strengthening of IP rights does not need to carry the force of law. I evaluated the other definition about positive versus non-positive as a separate argument because, like the 2AR said, I didn't really know what these definitions were doing, so I thought there were two separate arguments. Then I went to the AF's argument about non-positive and positive law both carrying the force of law. I am deciding that while this is true in most cases, the way the neg has explained the counterplan is clearly more complicated than just being non-positive law. It does not carry the force of law in the way that it usually does. First, the interpretations. I think that the 1AR and 2AR are largely defensive and do not take into account the dropped argument that specifically against new apps, these counterplans should be competitive. The 2AR answer to this is new, so I don't evaluate it. And it ends up being defense to a lot of the app ground stuff, which I think is the only offense in the 2AR. I think that predictability is dropped in the 1AR because I only have answers to neg, flex, and ground. And that frames a lot of debate for me because it's the best standard for providing good clash and fair presentation of arguments and debates and influences, limits, and grounds. This is also a big reason why I don't evaluate a bunch of the debatability stuff, which I also think is quite new in the 2AR. Predictability is the only clear-cut offense for me that I don't think both teams have sizable arguments for on each side. The other interpretation thing, both the app and negs cards seem to agree that positive law is the only law that's 100% totally accurate and reflective of statutes that Congress has enacted. Both teams' evidence also seems to agree that non-positive law is usually a sort of like Frankensteining together of existing statutes from several different instances of Congress enacting them, which is why it's called imitation law or like a cliff notes of statutes. But I think that the counterplan is distinct. The counterplan inserts the plan into the US Code without Frankensteining it together from existing like statutes, like both teams' definitions assume. So basically it's just lying to the entire government by inserting a non-positive law that is not based on any previous statutes. And since the counterplan only fiats that happens and does not fiat that a new statute is created, it does not carry the force of law. So I think that the neg has, the way that the neg has consistently explained the counterplan to just be this insertion of non-positive law, and that everything else is a result of follow-on from other governmental departments means that it is. Yeah, any question?
Was there like a better way? Like, we just kind of went for like the positive. So you thought like the OLRC card doesn't actually say that positive law and non-positive law are the same thing? Okay.
The quotes that we're talking about in my RFD, I put them in the decision so you can see as well.
Okay.
I also think that your definition is just like a looser definition of all the cards the neg has. Like all the cards the neg has are much more specific. Like they basically say the same thing as you do, that like most non-positive law is like a Frankenstein of existing statutes. But like there's some parts of it, such as if you go into a court and cite a section of the US Code, your adversary may bring in a dozen statutes at large to show that what is in the code is not an accurate statement, which just proves that they're like very distinct and that's very debatable when they're brought up together.
Something you should have said is cross-applied TPR can only be done by Congress, which means all the limits arguments about like agency apps and guidance wouldn't exist because it can only be Congress. So then it just like, does NEG get US code counterplan? Yes, no. And there's no impact if the AF can be US code because then the advantages associated with it are not germane to IP, so the negative can counterplan out of it. But given functional competition, the AF can't like test the intrinsicness of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's literally just a risk that AFs are US code versus risk of getting counterplan.
For like next time, how do you think we should reformulate the 1 AR on the camera?
I think you should define copyright and say that you can strengthen copyright without it being statutory. I know it's difficult because like most definitions will either just like not speak to the agent or they'll tend to say it's statutory. But my guess is that you can go find a bunch of contextual uses where it says that like a specific agency decision or a court case had the effect of strengthening it. Like I know Mandel has some ones where it says that kind of thing. It's just like evidence that it need not carry the force of law.
I think that the strategy could have taken advantage of the fact that like this is literally lying to the rest of the government a lot more on like the say no front. Because I know it's hard because the 2NC like points out that you dropped that the second plank fiats other governmental agencies follow on. But I think you can get them like a sort of trap here in the one in the future. Like pointing out that like it's not statutory at all, which supercharges your like lobbying arguments, which I do think needs to like start in the 2AC because it wasn't even the 1AR. But I think those arguments about like lobbying and like the rest of the government backlashing would be really, really persuasive if you point out everything that I think we've said in our decisions, that like the counterplan is not what their definitions are saying, not why like the reason why the federal government would follow on to previous non-positive laws because it actually is based in some statutes at least, but this is like a completely like new thing that is not based in any statute that has ever existed. So like corporate, like people, and so all of your like 1AC offense supercharges this because like people have like an incentive to not want to let them like whatever the act is, like they have an incentive to do that now. Lobbyists would definitely like react badly if this was there too. And then get them, but still extend them to the counterplan so you can get them to like drop the second plank in the because if they extend the second plank, I think it's an easy kill for them.
I know the neg cards look scary, but if you actually like go and click the cards, like there definitely are cards that say that they'll look in the statutes if like the code is just wrong.
Because the part that you read, like, it does say that they both can be statutory text and both of them can go to the federal and state governments. So there definitely, yeah, I think that there are definitely cards that also say that that statutory text can also be perceived as binding. I just don't think this card says that.
We don't have anything. Thank you.
All right, thank you
Good
so much.
tournament, y'all.
Good tournament.
Good luck in the finals.